it's Nick here from A Little Piece of Mind. I wanted to just jump in and create a video for you. I haven't created one for a while, but there's a metaphor that keeps coming to mind for me at the moment, and I kept thinking I really want to record a video on that. So here I am. And the reason it keeps coming up is because it keeps freaking raining. Like, it just won't stop raining at the moment. And I'm gardening at the moment. If you haven't realised from my newsletters, I'm growing flowers for the vase. And so I'm outside a lot at the moment, and it keeps freaking raining. Since the minute I've started this project, it has literally rained every day. My whole garden is a swamp, but that's a whole nother story. But my husband built for me as my birthday present some cold frames. Now, cold frames, if you don't know what they are, I didn't, but we Googled it and we found out what they were. They're like, kind of like a box with a lid on it, made of wood and then plastic coating on the outside of it. And so it's like a mini greenhouse that's, I don't know, 3 foot by 3 foot, right? And so you lift the lid up, you have your pots and plants in there as they're growing so that the pests can't get them and they don't get too cold. And then you pop the lid down again. Now, because I'm new to gardening, I'm making all sorts of rookie mistakes. But one of the things that happens when it's warm and when it's wet, I've realised, is that the condensation appears all inside the cold frame. And these drops of water, you know what condensation is, right? The drops of water all appear inside the cold frame. And the metaphor that came to mind is I keep seeing these drops of water and wondering if they'll ever go away. And yes, I know I have to keep propping the cold frame open. If there's any gardeners amongst you, I have learnt that you have to go and prop it open every day. So to let the air circulate. And the metaphor that came to mind is, like, if you imagine this inside the cold frame, there's this expanse of invisible air, right? You can't see it, you can't touch it, it's formless. And then what happens is that at a certain point, a droplet of water appears from the air, comes into form, right? Temporarily, comes into form. Now, through that droplet, if you imagine, the light shines through that droplet out of the cold frame, and a whole world appears, all as a reflection of the light coming through the cold frame out into the world. This reflection appears, this light appears through the raindrop, and a whole world is created. And there are trees, and there are birds, and there is grass, and there's other flowers, and there's a shed, and and then for whatever reason, that raindrop, that drop of water vanishes back into the formless again, right? Change in temperature, I guess, right? But that water droplet vanishes, and now no view out into the world. And then a heartbeat later, another raindrop appears slightly to the right of the one that was there before. Now the light shines through that, and all of a sudden there's a different view, and there's a garage, and there's a fence, and there's a neighbour over in the next garden that didn't exist here but now does, through the light reflected through this raindrop. And this raindrop, all day long, the raindrop is vanishing back into the formless and then forming again in a different way, in a different shape, and a different world is created outside of the cold frame. Over and over and over again, continually. Formless, form, world appears. Formless, back into the formless. Form, world appears. Form, formless, world appears. None of it's constant, none of it's fixed, none of it's solid. Which is the real view out of the cold frame? Is it the first raindrop, the second raindrop, the third raindrop, the fourth raindrop? All of them appear real in the moment the raindrop is there. And then the minute the raindrop vanishes, no view, right? Nothing through which the world can be seen. And every world that appears is temporary. Every world is real for as long as the raindrop is there, and then it vanishes again. The raindrop itself vanishes back into the formless and the form, and the formless and the form. And this is the experience of life. There's a formless energy a formless energy from which form is created. That little raindrop is like you or I. And in 1 second, we're formed in this way. We come into form. The idea of us comes into form, if you want to get really clear about it. But like, form appears. Through that form, a world appears that looks real and true. And then 3 seconds later, we vanish into the formless and back we come again, but with a different world right now. Here the world looks exciting and full of opportunity, and there's so much that we could do and so much to learn, and aren't people lovely and aren't they kind? And then 3 seconds later, we've forgotten ourselves. We've got absorbed in a task and our idea of ourselves has vanished, and then back it comes again, and now suddenly the world looks grim and grey and miserable, and nobody's helping us and nobody cares, and if only we could do things differently we'd be better, and if only the world didn't look as bleak and grim as it must really be. And then 3 seconds later there's a world full of peace and beauty, and then there's a world full of angst and upset. None of the worlds are fixed, real and true. They're all temporary creations of a light through a raindrop. None of the raindrops are fixed, real, solid, true, and have certain characteristics. They're just a medium through which the light gets reflected and the world gets created. Mind, this essence behind life, is the creator of all of it. It's the source of all of it. Now, as I continue in this conversation, I love the worlds that get created, right? I love the experience of playing in the garden, and then it fascinates me that the next second the garden can look like an absolute nightmare, hard work, chore, wish I'd never started it, and then the next minute it can be so full of hope and possibility. I love the world of form that appears from this formless energy, but I'm also really curious to look in the direction of what is it what is that air in the cold frame, this formless, infinite nothing, ever present nothingness through which these continual forms are being created and disappeared. Anxiety, stress, worry, what job I should do, what about my physical symptoms, what about coronavirus, what about my relatives, what about my kids? Like they're all appearing as they are at the moment because of the way the raindrop is being created. That's it. And 3 seconds later, as our idea of self vanishes and reforms, it looks like we live in a beautiful world where people are caring about each other and amazing leaps in science are happening and people are pulling together like they never have, and our kids are being lovely, and a different world appears, and that world looks real too. Less concerned with anything that I think is real, solid, fixed, true, and needs to be dealt with, and more in awe of the creative nature of that whole creative system that's continually in operation. Anyway, that's just what I've been thinking about this week when I've been out in the garden and I wanted to create you a video. So let me know what you think. And I'll be back with you, no doubt, with another video soon. Take care.